evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the 5th race of the 64th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Back for our 3rd time at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway, and now in the halfway point of the regular season. So I guess we could kind of start this as our run towards the playoffs. Already had 4 incredible races this season. The defending champion has gone to victory lane twice already. Grant Wesley back on the warpath finding victory lane, but last week was a big one where we saw Bob Dixon pick up his very first win of his Talladega Challenge Series career. What will we have in store here this afternoon, or this evening I should say? We're going to have to wait and find out. I'm Seth Cole alongside Michael Norman. Kyle Matthews back in the booth with us here as well. Michael, I'll start with you. I talk about driver mentality during the course of the season. We're now around the halfway point of this regular season. Some drivers have got themselves in good positions, either winning or through consistency in points, but what's the sense of desperation if you're a driver down there outside the top 20 in points?
Well, it's all about trying to get yourself into the correct position towards the end of the race for maximum points. You know, if you can't win a race, you need to position yourself and to get as much points as you possibly can, and that means hitting your pit stops good, avoiding those black flags, and avoiding your commentary, because apparently sometimes you like to give people the commentator's curse.
I don't do it on purpose.
Yes,
Kyle,
you do.
second
Stop
time.
saying that, because you know you do.
Second time you join us in the booth here, Kyle. You got treated to a thriller last week. Got to see a first-time winner here in the series. With what you had for takeaways from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, you know, what are some of the key things you're looking at here tonight?
Well, just kind of. Well, I'm not really sure actually. Just wanted to tune in here, look at who can survive the madness. We saw last week it started out as a very calm race. We had a late race caution, and then a couple laps later, all pandemonium broke out. So who knows?
Hey, you had a little bit of everything.
Pandemonium, boy, that's a shout out to a specific roller coaster.
Shouting out my number 2. Shouting out number 2 on my coaster list.
It was a roller coaster of a race last week, so I think we're in for another one here tonight.
Got 42 drivers, full field here this evening.
41 drivers.
41?
I believe that's what he said. Remember when he was in here? He was like, "I got 42 people in here, but only 41 racing."
Well, no, we have 40. Oh, you're right. Yeah, it is 41 drivers. Correct.
There you. Good job, Seth.
Thanks, man.
Great job. Great.
Yeah, the only driver that missed the field, he missed qualifying, was Greg Lovell. So, yep, as I said before.
So we're not going to have the 88, the 088, or the 880.
Yeah. So as I said originally, 41 drivers going to be taking the green flag here tonight. Kelly Causey gets the random qualifying draw for the pole position this evening. He'll be alongside of Rodney Sullins on the front row. Jeffrey Elliott, Ron Hagelin back in row number 2. Cy Jones and Ken Roberts, they'll be row 3. John Godfrey and Graham McDonald, row 4. And then Tim Knopfskirt, the 2-time winner, and Dennis McCarthy going to complete your top 10. Ulysses Sandoval and Bobby Farrell back in row 6. Row 7, Craig Hagley and Denny Carroll. Brian Schilling will be back in row 8 with Pat McCarsky. Chuck McClure and Donnie Garrett in row 9. Your top 20 will be completed with Keith Bynum and Glenn Harris. Jessica Shelton with Doug Hewlick. They'll be back in row 11. Grant Wesley, former winner on the season. He's with Billy Elliser in row 12. Row 13, Bernie Mobbs and Robert Breedlove. Row 14 finds Richard Martin and Greg Palmer. And then the top 30, row 15 with Bob Seminara and Dante Ricky. Joe DeSpirito and Nate Balzer, they're back in row 16. Row 17 with Jason Scheck and Jeremy Jeffries. Row 18, Mike Mangialardi, Terry Bombard. Row 19 will be Mark Paglia and Josh Metallic. Don LaPrade will roll off the grid in 39th, Brian Rawson in 40th, and Bob Dixon, who finished P1 last week for his first win in the series, he will start shotgun on the field here tonight. 66 laps here this evening. Kelly Causey in the brand new livery on that 00 brings us to the start-finish line.
TV2.
You and your TV2. Oh, Knopfskirt.
Is someone coming off a pit road? Or is that just a... I don't think so. You wouldn't be allowed to start yet.
It's like he just got forced to the bottom or something there.
Yeah, I don't know. That was Tim
fine.
Knopfskirt. Oh, and we're wrecking.
That ain't fine.
That's not fine at all. Bernie Mobbs, Donnie Garrett, Bob Seminara, Hewlick. I think we may get a restart.
Will we? Do they do that? I don't know if they do that in this
They've done
series.
that occasionally. Shelton
Jessica
all
Shelton
torn
already.
up. McCarskey, Terry Bombard.
I would definitely like to know what happened there.
Remember last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, we had a stack up on the initial start. Shelton went through the grass. We might have had something like that again here, unless somebody missed a shift. I don't know if we're going to get ourselves
Something
a
like
restart or
that.
not.
Well, something like that as early as
Well,
it happened.
they
I would
ended,
be surprised if they didn't do that. But
They
who
ended
knows?
last week with the wreck, and they started this week with the wreck.
Let's go back and see if we can, if they end up doing a restart, then we'll cut back to live. But for the moment, let's go back. Let's find the 088 of Novsker.
Well, if they do a restart, our replay would cut.
Yep, that's true too. Novsker was 9th on the grid.
Oh, no, it happened before. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He got
Same
bumped
thing
by
as last
by
week.
Ulysses.
Identical thing as last week. A stack up on the initial start. Looks like Ulysses Sandoval tried.
What started it? But the 088 did not start the wreck.
No, the wreck happened up ahead of them somewhere.
Oh, 41. Denny Carroll.
Oh, my Lord.
What in the world?
Go back, because it looked like his car cut suddenly. Like maybe
Yeah,
he downshifted.
I think he downshifted. I think you're exactly right.
Oh, and Jess got flipped over, too.
Yep, you see right there.
No,
Holy
I think
cow!
that's just lag. Or
Did
something.
he warp?
I think that's what that was.
That car started flipping onto its side down on the apron. That's a new one. I don't think I've ever seen that one before. All right, Michael, here's your TV2. Watching his gearing. No downshift, just
It was
warped.
warped.
Holy cow, Pat McCarskey gets flung up into the air. Shelton into the catch fence, and just look at the carnage. Bernie Mobbs up on top of Donnie Garrett. He's on his roof, gets a hit from Joe DeSpirito. There's Nate Balser on the right side of your screen.
I have never seen warp like that before.
No,
That's
me
crazy.
either. Let's see if we can get another shot
I
of
definitely
this.
want to know what happened.
That is so odd. Grant Wesley was in that. Doug Hewlick. Greg Palmer was in the middle of it. Jeremy Jeffries. Pretty much anybody behind it got involved, it seems.
That's a tough break for a lot of drivers out there if they don't get a restart here.
Never got out of the gate.
Yeah.
Bunch of them. Greg Palmer was right in the middle of it here. Let's see what he saw. I mean, the 197 of McCarskey literally got lifted up, like picked up by Denny Carroll's car and flung into the catch fence. We'll see drivers, they hit the outside wall and then they'll fly up into the catch fence. He literally was lifted up into the catch fence. Think the camera survived on his machine?
Wow, the 88 of Grant Wesley flipping over a bunch on that one, too.
Yep.
I mean, I think the Novsker might have gotten a piece of it. I don't remember if he did or not.
Take a look at this.
That was a great timing.
Literally
Oh my
lifted up. Literally lifted up in the air.
Do we know if the 088 got a piece of that as well?
I believe he was ahead of it, but we'll double check.
Also, Matt, I saw what you said about being part of the commentator's curse there, and you need to shut up right now.
I mean, I will say in Michael's defense, and I can't believe I'm defending him after what he said about me just moments ago with my commentator's curse, but he wished Josh Metallic luck here tonight, and I think Josh got through it.
That's all the luck you get.
That's all. That's it.
That's right on board with him and see.
Yeah, Tim got through it.
Just made it through, yeah. Let's go right on board with Metallic and see. And before he just blows up on a caution.
This luck was wished him by Michael.
Words, hello? Oh, he's got a new livery too. I'm not used to seeing folders on his.
The best part of waking up is driving through a wreck with no damage.
That'll wake you up, all right.
Whoa!
I think all he did was spin. I think
Yep.
he's good. Oh, hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Bob Dixon very happy that he started at the rear of the field here tonight.
He was involved in it, but he didn't get much damage out of it, so I guess that's the lucky part. Well, it's very obvious that we're not getting a restart here, so...
Yep. So we're gonna have
How is Pat McCarskey still on the racetrack?
I don't know. That red Panda still has fight in it.
But how much is the question. Anyways,
a lot of drivers off the pace here, I feel. I mean...
While we're under caution, I'm going to take this moment to go to the commentator's room.
That little commentator's room? I mean, you got to assume Denny Carroll's going to have a lot of damage. Grant Wesley, I feel, is going to have a lot of damage, though mostly to the rear. Jessica Shelton, right now, the only driver out of the race after all that. She's got to get credit for 41st. Shelton came into this one, I believe it was 30th in points, right around that cut line where the top 35 get locked into the field each week.
This is also the second week of the bracket challenge. I wonder how that affects everything.
Yeah, actually, while we're at it, I'll read off that list of who's facing off against who. This is on the winner side of the bracket. Remember, everybody that did not advance, they are down on the loser side of the bracket. Still have a shot to be able to battle for the bracket championship at the end of this season. But tonight, you've got Tim Nofsker facing off against Josh Metallic. Ulysses Sandoval against the current race leader, Kelly Causey. Denny Carroll, more than likely, is going to lose out on his matchup tonight after what we just saw happen with him. He was going up against Mike Mangialardi. Jeremy Jeffries facing off against Glenn Harris. Grant Wesley against last week's winner, Bob Dixon. Rodney Sullins, who's going to restart in the third spot. He's taking on Donnie Garrett. Brian Schilling against Terry Bombard. And Richard Martin going up against Craig Hagley. For our second round here of the bracket challenge, two drivers there, it looks like, could be in trouble of losing out on their bracket battle. Denny Carroll obviously being one, and also in the middle of that wreck was Terry Bombard, but Jerry's kind of still out on how much damage he sustained.
Lights are off at the top of the pace car. Going to go green this time by. Big question is how many of these cars are going to be off the pace due to that wreck?
And we're not going to know the answer to that until they really get up to full song. Maybe by the back straightaway, but probably
they can make it past turn one.
Yeah.
Which they didn't even make it up to full song on that first lap. They didn't. I think they made it in the middle of turns 1 and 2 is when that wreck happened. So.
As Michael pointed out, Josh Metallic with a new livery tonight. We see the pole sitter Kelly Causey with a new livery. A lot of drivers with some new paint schemes. And I ended up getting messaged something last minute before these drivers went green. You got Dennis McCarthy here in the UPS car. This is supposed to be a replica of the old UPS trucks, the delivery trucks. Dennis McCarthy was actually a delivery driver for UPS for 30 years, and he said that he actually put the fiberglass roof to simulate the roof on the trucks to let the sunlight in. So at a super speedway, I don't think you want to open that for aerodynamic purposes, but it's there on the 024.
Oh boy.
Very unique paint scheme there.
It's almost like somebody painting a school bus.
Well, we don't know anybody like that.
There is a school bus in the field, 096 of Sandoval. Green flag back in the air here.
Of course you would post that, or say that.
I mean, it's true.
You would post it, too.
I got it from a good authority.
Why don't you just paint him a car that makes it look like an actual school bus?
I didn't say a school bus. I said a bus.
School bus.
Kelly Causey pulling up to that middle line, right in front of Rodney Sullins. Rodney Sullins with a new car this week. No longer in the Chevy Monte Carlo. He's now in the Chevy Nova. And you got the Toyota behind him of Jeffrey Elliott. When they get around to the back straightaway, I think we'll start to get a good idea of who is going to be off the pace and be hoping this to be a race of attrition to be able to pick up some spots. Already seen quite a number of stragglers back there as they cross the start-finish line. country time. Number 41 of Denny Carroll, obviously off the pace. Makarski soldiering on, but he's off the pace. Robert Breedlove back here in the 931. Jason Scheck in the 13. See some rear end damage on the 712 of Bob Seminara. He's trying to hold on to the tail end of this group. Looks like they did a pretty good repair job on the 88 of Grant Wesley.
That's really surprising. He took quite a hit in that. Saw him go upside down a couple of times in that wreck.
Same for this car there, the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. He barrel rolled a couple of times when he was up in the rear. Decklid of Donnie Garrett.
And Wesley get together a little bit there. Everything able to hold it together.
I'm almost wondering if maybe Grant's got one of the damage problems where he's okay if he's got someone pushing him, but if he's by himself, he's in trouble, because that contact right there says to me the 96 is faster than the 88.
I don't know. We've seen Grant take more damage than that before and still run up front, so...
Well, we've seen drivers have their entire back end missing and be able to charge up for a top 5. Brian Schilling actually did that last season. And there is the aforementioned Brian Schilling, right now in the 9th spot.
That sounds like such a long word, aforementioned.
Aforementioned.
How many syllables is that?
I can only count to 4.
I think there is only 4.
Good.
4-syllable word.
That's convenient. Well, I got the opportunity here, too. I know I've done this a couple of times, but big shout out to Rodney Sullins. We've had some issues with accessing the car file manager here to be able to get these paint schemes, and Rodney has been very prompt if anybody uploads a new car of making sure that it's sent, so that way they all show up here on the broadcast. So big thanks to him for that. And Kyle, the cat's out of the bag of your old school paint scheme knowledge. So Rodney sent me a list of some schemes in the field here tonight and wanted to test your knowledge if you can tell who they're throwbacks to.
Okay.
So we'll start with the 82 there of Craig Hagley, currently running
that's
an 8.
An easy one. That's Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit.
Absolutely is.
Harry Gant drove that car. Robert Slee, Kenny Schrader.
Oh, yeah. I forget that.
Got the 22, Greg Palmer.
That's a Darrell Waltrip throwback, the Pepsi Challenger. In fact, that's kind of a solid throwback of a throwback. Back in 2009, Jeff Gordon also ran that at Talladega. Unfortunately, that race didn't go so well for him in that car, but
2 for 2. Michael pointed out this new livery there for Josh Metallic in the 39 machine.
Originally that was Tim Richmond that drove that car. Kenny Schrader also drove a Volter's paint scheme for Hendrick Motorsports, and then they went to sponsor Mark Martin, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So far, you're at 100%. How about the 77, Donnie Garrett?
Get a better look at that. Is that like the Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet car that Ernie Irvin ran back in the day?
Not quite.
I think that's not the silver Goodwrench car he ran in the All-Star race?
No, it's not. It's not Dale. I'll tell you that much.
It wasn't the car that Ernie Irvin ran?
It is the car that Ernie Irvin ran.
Yeah, I think Dale sponsored that car.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I said the Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet. I think it was like a car dealership or something, and sponsored Ernie back in the day.
All right. So you got that one right. Got 2 more here in the field. See if we can find them. One of them is off the pace, unfortunately, back here, but I believe still running. Well, not any longer. I was gonna drop back there to that 41 Country Time car of Denny Carroll.
Well, that was a Neil Bonnet throwback originally.
Well,
that's the car that Neil was going to run.
Except you forgot he was the one that caused that wreck.
No, I know that, but he was still running. But he has actually, in the last 3 laps, brought it to the garage area. And then the final one is Rodney Sullivan's number 38. We already mentioned about it being a Chevy Nova, but I think it's pretty obvious who this is a throwback to.
It looks like a Dale Earnhardt throwback.
Yes, it is.
Also the same colors.
His number 8 Nova from the Busch Grand National Series.
It also reminds me of the Haas CNC car that Ryan Newman had back in.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The early 2010s.
trying to remember, no, when Hussey and C sponsored them, when they had Sauter and Green, it was orange and black, right, for the Hussey and C that Sauter had?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, back here, you know, the number 33 Best Western car.
Yes, totally. Best
Before
Western
we came
Auto.
on the air, these guys gave me grief for last week, calling the Western Auto car the best Western car, but, you know.
Oh, you did it to yourself.
I did. But I said somewhere out there might be a corporation known as Best Western Auto, so...
No. That's not even worth saving yourself.
Looks like we have some guys on the outside trying to work their way up to the front here. The 4 leading that pack.
I was actually trying to remember this car, but it's a throwback too. I can't get the name Bobby Hamilton out of my head, but I don't think that's correct.
No. I know David Starr ran that paint scheme in the truck series.
Yeah, was it the 75?
Yes.
Okay.
So did Kevin Harvick, actually. They're making up some ground on that outside. Brian Schilling, Dunlop Pratt, a few others back there.
Dante
In that
Ricky
second
up there
group.
as well. I wonder if Dante had Wawa before the race. That was always a running joke on Monday nights for the Bare Bones series. Dante always would eat before the race, and it was always a quiz on what did he eat for his pre-race meal. I want to go back to a Wawa. It's been a while.
Well, we can take you one when you come down here.
So we're friends with,
we're
we're really good friends with somebody who loves Wawa.
Yes.
I want to take a moment, if we don't mind, to shout out our fellow racing network, Johto Network, broadcasting the Bomb Squad Racing Series at Michigan with current race leader Ricky Johnson.
Where are they racing at, Michael? Say it correctly. We've learned this.
Hig.
Michigan. Thank you.
Michigan.
Keith Bynum in the sucker hole. No help in that middle line. Jeremy Jeffries trying to make a run up here on the inside to pick up Craig Hagley. Schilling, LaPrade still trying to run the extreme outside line. Now they're really breaking up here inside of the top 6, 7, trying to figure out which line to defend.
There's the 55 in his yellow numbers.
Yep. Oh boy, what a move there by the 4. Going to put the 111 to the very outside with no drafting help, making it 3 wide. That was a pretty risky move, but it paid off.
1 may be the loneliest number, but 3 ones are right now. Hagelin going to go from 4th place last time by to well outside of the top 20.
Oh, 2 can be as lonely as 1, but the loneliest number is the number 1.
But there's no 2 in the field. Been a while since we've seen Hank Middleton actually in an RTG race. Hopefully we see him on track soon. So we went back green, if I'm not mistaken, on the completion of lap 6. So if you're keeping score at home in terms of how far they can go on a green flag run, we'd be looking roughly in the next 8 laps or so from when these drivers will have to make a green flag pit stop.
But I'm believing somewhere between laps 23 and 24.
That early?
Well, restart lap 6.
Restart lap 6, 19 laps.
We're about that battle for the lead.
What's 19 plus 6? That's 25. Okay, so that's what I said, about 23, 24.
That's when Bob Dixon will pit.
I mean, you're not wrong. Usually when Bob Dixon pits, that's a telltale sign that the rest are coming in the next lap or so.
Absolutely is.
Well, he timed his pit stop right last week.
He did, absolutely.
That's fair. Oh yeah.
So we saw Hagelin
now on the outside. Now he's going to go for the lead here. We saw a lot of ground that those guys on the outside line made, and now they're side by side for the lead.
Yeah, they were able to get from the 3rd line down to the middle line, which is usually the preferred lane here at Talladega. You're able to stay in the throttle a lot longer, not as much checkup as there is down on the bottom of the racetrack, especially on the straightaways. The surge, the momentum seems to favor the middle groove, and Schilling will lead that lap. We saw Ron Hagelin get shuffled to the back. He is the last of the drivers in this lead pack. Grant Wesley, Bob Dixon, Bernie Mobbs, Bob Seminara, Jason Scheck, Robert Breedlove, and Pat McCarsky have all lost the lead group. And Grant... Whoa! Contact, and there they go! Dante Ricky! Rodney Sullins up and over! Jeffrey Elliott as well. Sullins gets another hit.
And there, yep. There has to be at least 9 cars involved in
Oh,
that.
look out. We got these drivers that had lost the lead group coming in. Craig Hagley was caught up in it in the 82. A lot of rear end damage on his machine. Sullins was up and over. That car, well, there might be roof damage. I can't tell, but that car looks relatively clean for the ride that he took.
That happened. That started toward the front of the field. There's the 4-car who was leading.
He is still the leader. I think he's pulling down there, throwing in the clutch, and making sure nobody runs him over.
Well, we saw the 38 car involved. He was, what, the second or third car on the inside
Yeah,
line.
that was up in the top 5.
This happened toward the front of the field.
Sullins, Dante, Ricky, Jeffrey Elliott amongst those where the incident started. And we'll see if we can get a good enough camera angle to see how exactly it started. We'll start here with the camera angle we had originally. There's a lot of movement up on the top. Was there a bad bump? Oh, might have been a little bumper grab there.
And then, Dante almost fully, you know.
Oh, that started in the middle line there.
I think
we should ride on board that 77 and see how he made it. I think he might have made it through that.
He made a little contact with Sullins.
I think the helicopter cam might tell us.
Yeah, watch the movement. The 38, I think, is going to bumper grab the front of the 56 behind him. Watch this little dart right there to the left.
Yep, right there. Yep.
That just moved Jeffrey up into Dante. Mark Paglia involved. Ooh, Joe DeSpirito took a hit down the inside wall, as did Craig Hagley.
How about we ride on board Ulysses and see how he made it through that?
Take a ride with the 096. He was, I believe, at the tail end of this lead pack. Riding behind his teammate Doug Hulick. Boy, look at the air the 84 caught. Woo! Bobby Farrell, hello. Oh, no!
Oh, I think it's sideswiped right there. I'm not sure how much damage he has, but a lot of these guys did a great job to avoid this. That wreck could have been a lot bigger than what it really was.
Fortunately, all that space on the back straightaway to be able to avoid. How about this ride with Dante, Ricky, and the 84?
Just out of nowhere. Doesn't even see it coming. He might be okay. I don't think he really hit much of anything.
No.
I mean, he half flipped.
Almost grip flipped. But he never made any, like, solid contact with anything. I think he's going to be all good. He may need a new set of tires.
On that thought. Okay, now we can say it.
Yeah, we gave Ulysses the pass, and then he had the contact with Jeffrey later. So no need for the free pass here under this caution. Everybody was on the lead lap at the time that yellow flew. So we'll have 39 drivers that will continue this thing more than likely. Terry Bombard mentioned he was off the pace
here, maybe.
Yep. So Terry stayed out, got the bonus point for a lap led. He'll come to pit road this time. Robert Breedlove going to stay out and get himself a bonus point for a lap led. And then when he pits, it should turn the lead over to Brian Schilling, who was first on, first off of pit road. Well, a reminder to everybody that these drivers will have an off week next week, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for race number 6 of the season. The NASCAR Duels at Daytona going to be taking place next Thursday night. A lot of these drivers will be tuning into it, so they will be calling an off week for that.
I just want to say, Matt pointed out that you cursed Rodney. And then he says the curse will never die with you involved.
All right, I need an explanation. How did I curse Rodney? Is it because I shouted him out?
Yep. It's because I think we talked about his paint scheme.
All right, you know what? I guess Rodney will never send me any more schemes so that way he finishes well the rest of the season. Enjoy the generic cars.
Yep.
So something I was going to bring up before we ended up having that most recent caution was Grant Wesley. We've documented now that he obviously has a car that is off the pace. He was back outside of the top 30 before that caution flew. He came into this race as the points leader. Now he's already locked into the playoffs. He just has to stay in the top 20 in the points for that win to count towards a spot in the postseason. But there's also a 15-point payout to the driver that ends up being the regular season champion. And Grant came in as the overall points leader. Brian Schilling was behind him in second. Tim Nofsker third. Jeremy Jeffries fourth. And those drivers at this point in time are all still up to speed, so Grant's points lead could very much be in danger. He got the points lead last week at the conclusion of the Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway event, so they're kind of flip-flopping that points lead around here these last couple of weeks. So Breedlove's coming in. Schilling will resume the top spot here for the upcoming restart. Denny Carroll's going to take a hit in the points. One of two drivers out of the race here tonight, as he was fifth in the standings coming into this evening. Chuck McClure was sixth. Ulysses Sandoval seventh. Bob Dixon, after his win last week, jumped up 10 spots in the standings to eighth. Mike Mangialardi in ninth, and Craig Hagley 10th. And then Mark Pagliacelli Causey 11th and 12th. 12 drivers, regardless of if they've won or not, will lock themselves into the playoffs on points. Right now, that would be the current playoff grid after the conclusion of last week. All of our three previous winners on the season are inside of the top 12 in standing, so no need for wildcard drivers at this point in time. So Schilling and Palmer going to be the front row here for this upcoming restart. Pole sitter Kelly Causey and Josh Metallic row 2, Dunn LaPrade, Chuck McClure in row 3 with Ken Roberts, Tim Nofsker, Jeremy Jeffries, and John Godfrey, the top 10. A couple of drivers we'll keep an eye on here on this restart that took some pretty solid hits in that wreck on the back straightaway. Joe DeSpirito in the 24, Craig Hagley in the 82. And see if those drivers are going to be up to speed or not once we get back green. And the timing of this caution kind of interesting too, because this is just a little bit past when these drivers would have had to make a green flag pit stop if we had gone green from the start of the race till now. Usually, if we end up having a race where they run completely green from start to finish, they have to make 3 pit stops and usually find themselves on that final pit stop somewhere about 6 to 7 laps short on fuel. Right now, if we went green to the finish, I think they'd be about 3 to 4 laps short of making it the rest of the way on 1 pit stop.
That could be very interesting if this thing stays green the rest of the way.
Well, Brian Schilling getting ready to put us back under the green. Michael, you'll remember one season ago here at Talladega, the season opener crossed the line on fumes to pick up that win in season 63. And something that Schilling has done that no other driver has done so far. We've run 4 races, and he has finished every single race inside of the top 5.
In the same position or just inside the top 5?
Just inside the top 5.
They're stacking up back there. Yeah. Someone I think may have missed a shift or just not up to speed, but yeah, they're stacking up a little bit further in the back here.
Kind of cut the pack in half a little bit there on the start, it looks like.
Big gap from Sandoval back to Graham McDonald.
Not sure who it was.
Might have been the 024 McCarthy, because it looked like they were almost splitting him 3 wide for a moment there, crossing the line. Everybody trying to get formed back up here to reel in the front of the pack. That stack up definitely, I'm looking at my scoring, and there's about a half dozen drivers that have received a black flag for passing there at the start-finish line due to that stack up. Those will all get cleared. I'm looking up here at a couple of drivers we saw last week. The Cinderella story, first win in the series for Bob Dixon. There's a couple of candidates up here that would love to make it back-to-back weeks of a driver getting their first win in the series. Looking at Dunn LaPrade in the 74, first full-time season for him in the series. A little ways back there, you've got the 63 of Keith Bynum and the Petty Blue 92 of Bobby Farrell. Ulysses Sandoval, he's been close a couple of times, had that photo finish with Grant Wesley a few weeks ago. Just shy of his first win in the series, so it's possible we could end up going 2 for 2 here in back-to-back weeks of a driver breaking into the winner's circle for the very first time.
It's the beauty of super speedway racing. It produces a lot of first-time winners.
Oh, wreck in the back!
Oh, boy.
Nate Balser around. Richard Martin. Billy Elliser caught some air. Caution comes out once again. Third yellow flag of the evening. Dante Ricky also caught up in the 84.
It was quite a catastrophe there.
Frozen field. These drivers coming back to the start-finish line at speed, but holding their positions. And we'll go back now and take a look at what happened. It looks like just prior to that caution flying as well, it appears that the 197 of Pat McCarskey soldiered on as long as he could with the damaged race car, but he has taken it to the garage area. One of 3 drivers now out of the event. Here's a look at what happened off of turn 2. 3 wide situation. And car on the inside just pushes up.
40, yep.
See that a lot here.
26 car nowhere to go, caught some air.
The amount of speed you carry here and the way that the setup is built as well makes the cars on that inside line a little tighter on exit. That's what we see give the momentum usually to the middle and outside lines. If you look here as well, it doesn't look like Nate Balser gives a whole lot of space to the 43 to account for that bit of push-up. It kind of comes down a little bit there. Another wreck, another blowover. Almost kind of similar there for Billy Elliser, the blowover he had. Same kind of blowover that Dante Ricky had in the previous caution.
Well, these cars were before the days of roof laps, so
I mean,
not sure how much that affects them in a game.
But even cars, this is a game. Said the magic word, Seth. You know what we have to do now.
This isn't iRacing. They won't yell at us. I was on board with Mike Mangialardi, who comes into this race top 10 in points. Little contact, but should be good.
Waluigi.
He'll be back next week, I believe. Michael, of course, talking about Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
See the 21 in a couple weeks at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. As Jeffrey Elliott, believe he and Grant Wesley both actually stayed out here under this yellow. Well, a number of them did. Looking back, I think Kelly Causey will actually cycle as the race leader, the beneficiary of that #1 pit stall under the random qualifying draw, paying dividends for him. Just barely edging out Greg Palmer and Brian Schilling off the pit lane.
Causey was the leader right as the caution came out, too. So
Causey at this point... Actually, I think our scoring monitor is... oh, it might be correct. Showing Causey having led 20 of the previous 27 completed laps. Brian Schilling has led 4. And then Jeffrey Elliott, Robert Breedlove, and Terry Bombard have led the other 3. Grant's coming down pit road here. Jeffrey's going to stay out an extra lap. Elliott might actually stay out this entire caution period if he didn't come to pit road right there. So 37 drivers still running. All will be on the lead lap. If you're just joining us, we're working our third caution and 3 drivers out of the race. Pat McCarskey, Denny Carroll, Jessica Schulten. Fastest lap, an interesting point of note. We talked about Bob Dixon starting shotgun in the field 1 week removed from his first win in the series. Fastest lap of the race right now is the 1:43. Must have got a heck of a toe lap being at the very back of the pack. 47.458 equaling out to 201.583 miles per hour. Now we know why these cars are flipping.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter what type of car it is. If you're sideways or backwards at over 200 miles per hour, you're probably going to catch some air. So apparently, for clarity, apparently Matt said that, yeah, me saying that Rodney gave us the paint schemes, that apparently that commentator cursed him.
I don't know how that qualifies as a commentator's curse, but...
If you mention their name and something happens in any context, apparently it goes down as a commentator's curse. And sometimes when you don't mention their names, it goes down as a commentator's curse. You didn't mention me, it gave me bad luck.
Say their name and they appear.
Oh, can you imagine if somebody ran a Joe Hendry car?
I'll do it.
That needs to be a thing.
I'll do it.
If somebody out there in this field is trying to come up with an idea of a car to run, just put a Joe Hendry face on the hood of your car.
Yes.
And the whole field will believe in you.
Clap, clap.
Keep saying his name, he might show up in the chat.
That would be hilarious, right? Let someone call my name.
Does Joe Hendry have a
Hendry?
YouTube channel?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, there has to be like a Joe Hendry Vivo or something, right? Lights out. Jeffrey Elliott going to take the inside line.
All the people watching our broadcast who are not wrestling fans have no idea what we're talking about right now.
Nope. However, I kind of feel like Joe Hendry is enough of a meme right now that even non-wrestling fans would get the reference.
Maybe.
So interesting call here. Going to be a little off sequence fuel-wise for Jeffrey Elliott. We know he's up to speed. Bob Seminara, though, I believe is a little bit off the pace. You see that back-end damage on the Town Fair Tire 712. Don't know if he'll be able to keep everybody else in his rearview mirror. They're going to be the front row. And then the rest of the drivers behind them did come to pit road under this caution period. Kelly Causey, Greg Palmer, rather. Brian Schilling, your top 5. Then Nofsker, McClure, LaPrade, Roberts, and Metallic, the top 10. It looks like they're trying to get themselves organized back there outside of the top 10 for who's supposed to be in what lane.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all if on this restart the 22 and everybody behind him try to split the 712 immediately. I mean, I don't know if they trust the damage on the back of that car.
We'll have to see.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to find out. Again, we've seen cars damaged like that and still be up there. So,
I believe that prior to the second caution, I think Seminara was just barely latched onto the tail end of the lead pack, but didn't really see him moving forward. So I don't know if he'll necessarily have a car that can lead. He may have a car that in the draft can follow and be a pusher, provided he has somebody behind him. Nearing halfway tonight, and Jeffrey Elliott's going to bring us down through the tri-oval and put us back under the green flag. 30 laps completed so far this evening at Talladega Super Speedway. Bit of a checkup there in the latter half of the top 10. See what happens off of turn 2. Do they stay with the 712? Or do they jump out on him on the back straightaway? Ooh, 22 peaked. Jeffrey Elliott goes up there to the top. We see that Seminary, it took him a little bit of time to get up there to his back bumper. Meanwhile, the energy was on the bottom, and here comes Kelly Causey. Three wide further back, Doug Hulick. Keith Bynum up there. Palmer now jumps up to the outside line. Nofsker going to go with him. LaPrade also moving up there. Metallic stuck in the middle with no help.
Got the 39. There, so we have three lines forming right here. The top four are broken away. I can't say broken away, but they're single file ahead of this group.
The one car joins him too. The 77, who's been involved in a couple of wrecks up here still too.
Not a whole lot of contact though for him. The car still looks like it is pretty much up to speed, still competitive. Donnie Garrett. And here comes Palmer leading the, well, was third line, now shifting maybe down to the middle. Can't decide which lane he wants to work with. He'll stay up there to the top off of turn 4. Right now, a bit of a stalemate back here around the 8th, 9th, 10th position. Godfrey going to get around Elliott. You can just see that 712, it's hurt. Everybody that's behind him trying to find a way either to the top or to the inside. Oh, spin in the back! Joe DeSpirito up in the air. He's going to get clobbered by Bob Dixon, Mike Mangialardi, and others. 4th caution of the night, as I believe the 24 is still spinning on his roof.
He's spinning on his roof like a top. And that's bad luck for the last week's winner. It's a good thing he has that win now.
24 had no choice.
Oh, look at the
call
run
for the
back
tow
to the
truck.
line.
And
I believe it's frozen field still. It's not raced back until 15 to go. But the tough thing there for Joe DeSpirito, regardless of how much damage he got, he ended up on his roof, had to call the tow back to pit lane, so he will lose at least a lap, maybe more, depending on how long the tow is actually going to be for. And that is the, I've lost count. Is that the 5th blowover we've had so far here tonight?
we've had at least 1 or 2 in every wreck so far.
And it looks like Joe DeSpirito's done. It's been a tough season so far here to start for the multi-time champion. Here's a look at what happened on the back straightaway. This might have been in regard to drivers trying to get around the 712, or no? Whoa.
I don't think that had anything to do with it. Something, was that the 79 that
Yeah.
came down into the 24?
I think the 24 pushed up, 79 came down, hooked him in the right rear quarter panel. And something that we didn't see that we'll focus on here in a minute was Jason Scheck got escorted down to the inside wall, and I think he hit that pretty hard as well. He's actually also out of the race. He was right behind the 24 car. The Terry Labonte throwback machine.
Oh,
yeah,
the 13 got into the 79. Okay.
So it wasn't even Balser, it was Scheck that actually triggered the wreck there.
Like the 13 pushed up a little bit and got into the 79, and that's all it took. And
those were some violent hits into that inside wall there as well. Looking real quickly here at the time of impact, and they were about 130, 140 miles per hour. Last week's winner, Bob Dixon, was back behind this, but he got involved. Here's a look at just how bad the impact was for him. 24 flipping right in front. Oh, and they were all scattering, trying to figure out where to go. There was contact back there with Mangialardi, Dante Ricky, and Bob Dixon. So they were all trying to pick lanes, trying to figure out where the 24 was going to end up when he landed.
It's a nice job by Bob Dixon to keep it out of the inside wall. Came awfully close there, but not sure how much damage he has.
I love when my phone goes off twice at like back to back right when a wreck happens.
Bobby Farrell also caught up in this one. We'll take a look from the aerial view at that second group and how they were all trying to scatter, trying to figure out where the 24 was going to end up. Yeah, Mangialardi had to hit the brakes because it almost looked like DeSpirito was coming into his path, and he had Dixon right behind him. Grant Wesley skates through. And the garage area rapidly beginning to pile up here. Mentioned about Joe DeSpirito out of the race, Jason Scheck out of the race, and most recently now, Nate Balser retiring from the event. So a half dozen drivers behind the wall just past the halfway point. Doug Hulick going to inherit the race lead here.
Doug Hulick. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with nicknames for some of these.
You don't have Waluigi in the field right now, so
I'm suffering withdrawals right now.
I like the paint scheme on that 23, the Crayola colors. I've never seen a car like that before. That looks good.
I actually looked up that car because I wondered if it was a throwback, and I feel like there was something I found. This was a couple of seasons ago that actually matched up with it, and now I don't remember who it was. See if I can find it again.
You won't find it again.
It's not identical, but there was a Biney and Smith number 98 Crayola car that was released in 1998 by Revel. And I don't know if that's exactly what this is supposed to be a throwback to. It actually, yeah, I think it is. Looks very similar to it.
I don't remember Crayola ever sponsoring a car. So
no, I don't think this was an official car. I think this was, I don't know if it was like a promotional car or not. Because it doesn't have an actual driver's name above the door. So I'm wondering if this was just a Crayola promotional thing or something. I don't know.
You're a promotional thing.
It's kind of weird that they would actually have a promotional car and not feature it on a car on the track, but Brian Rawson, who started 40th here tonight, looks like he's up in the second position. We'll see if he stays there for the upcoming restart. The Winn-Dixie Ford, one of many Mark Martin throwbacks. We've seen him feature during the course of the past seasons, ever since they moved over here to the Aero 88 mod. Interesting rumblings been going on, from what I understand, in the RTG community, that we could be in the works of another mod change, maybe as soon as season 65.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, you know those trucks, the 1965 trucks mod that was released not too long ago?
Yeah.
Well, rumor has it, they ran a test race, a super speedway test race with that mod here. Loved the results of it, and there's been some lobbying to make that the new mod here for the Talladega Challenge Series.
Huh.
Last time we ran trucks was the NCTS 09 mod.
Yep, I remember.
So working the calculators here, these drivers from this point on...
You can't do that.
Well, I just did. And I broke it.
But is it accurate? That's the question.
That's a good question. Now, if I did the math in my head, then it would definitely be wrong. But right now, these drivers can make it on one more pit stop. They can go as far as 10 laps remaining if they try to stretch it all the rest of the way here on what they've got in this tank to make that final pit stop.
At that point, they would only need to, I think, one can, right?
Correct. Unless you're the leader, then you might need a can and a half. If you lead most of this run, I think you might actually use up enough fuel that you actually would be about 11 laps short and have to take on a can and a half for absolute security. Unless you plan this race potentially ending under yellow.
Which, the way this race is going, that might be the right strategy, but who knows?
Now, the last couple of weeks, we've ended up having those races end under caution. Saw Tim Nofsker win under yellow 2 weeks ago here at Talladega. Bob Dixon ended up winning under caution last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So far we are 2-2 in terms of finishing this season's previous races either under green or under caution. As Doug Hewlick looking for his second win of his Talladega Challenge career is going to bring us down. Pole sitter Kelly Causey to his outside. Green flag back in the air. Donnie Cameron in our chat just said he actually tried downloading the Vintage 65 truck mod yesterday and the site was down. I believe it was Desmod Racing that released that mod. Interesting if their site actually has gone down. A lot of people out there, though, I'm sure downloaded the mod before the site went down, so...
Oh, I have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Stunod might have a mod download over there. Kelly Causey, Coach Kelly Causey in that brand new paint scheme. It has been fast here tonight. I know we got the pole position, but he has led so far 24 laps.
It's been in the picture all night. Hasn't fallen out of the top 5, it seems like.
Sandoval now making a move to the bottom. He's got his teammate Graham McDonald down there with him. Trying to make a move on Ken Roberts for the 3rd position. Bit broken up back there just outside of the top 10. 3 wide. Hewlick, who led us back to green, stuck in the middle. Terry Bombard was to his outside. Jeffrey Elliott to his inside. They'll settle that back out to double wide as we start to see drivers drifting back from the tail end of this lead group. Glenn Harris in danger of losing the pack. Bernie Mobbs back there as well. And
What
Robert
happened to that
Breedlove.
inside line?
Middle lane gets the advantage. Middle to high lane always gets the advantage when you're right there on that dotted white line. That's what happens.
We've seen so many times here at Talladega. You mentioned those white hash marks. You'll see them side by side, running in between those hash marks. There's just enough room for 2 cars to be able to fit side by side, and they've done that in the past where the whole field will be 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, just up in that middle groove, trying to share that lane that has all that grip and all that momentum off the corner. Jeremy Jeffries lurking there, 4th in points coming into this one, 13 points out of the top position. Chuck McClure right behind him, 35 points back. Oh, Jeffrey Elliott going to get spun off the nose of Ulysses Sandoval. Sandoval's up and over, and we're going to have a massive one again. Wesley slides in.
Oh, boy, that was
Well, depending on how many caution laps we get, this may take the fuel out of it.
Great point. Second car to go around off the nose of the 096 of Sandoval this evening. This latest one, Jeffrey Elliott, in the middle of the corner. Last week's winner, Bob Dixon, caught up in yet another one. Again, got to be very happy. He's got the security blanket of his victory to lock him into the playoffs, and we'll go back and take a look at what happened here. Jeffrey Elliott, I believe, is out of the race, and Sandoval went up and over. Might have actually gone up into the catch fence. Watch here, the bump into the corner. Still on him, and yeah.
Never looked like you never back off.
I mean, at some point you've raced long enough to know that that's never a good idea.
Sandoval ends up on his roof. Another driver that had to call a tow. Saw Joe DeSpirito have to do the same thing in the most recent yellow, and then there were a bunch of drivers that got caught up later on in the wreck. We saw Grant Wesley slide in. I'm pretty sure he probably got hit from behind by somebody. He's got Mangialardi behind him here. Let's see, does he get a punt, or does he... Oh, he gets down the apron and it gets loose on him. And he's going to get Hewlick right there. Dante Ricky, Bob Seminara, Brian Rawson in the middle of all that too.
Donnie in our chat says it's the Big Juan.
The Big Juan. See how Rawson, Hewlick, Seminara all got involved. They all just were stacking up, all trying to go to the apron to avoid Keith Bynum. Glenn Harris gets by. Billy Elliser as well. You know, there's a bunch of drivers that are still trying to make something out of nothing with damaged race cars that they had in the very early going of this event. They're loving to see this race of attrition, because this means that either more drivers are going to retire or are going to be damaged and off the pace as well for them to be able to race with. Every position in this series is a point, and that could be very important if you're trying to get one of those final positions inside the top 12 in the stands at the end of the regular season to advance into the playoffs. Mark Paglia, multi-time winner last season, was caught up in this one as well. Here's the 28. 63 of Keith Bynum we know was involved as well. Ooh, just see Donnie Garrett in the 77. He just narrowly avoided, and oh, gracious. Paglia almost.
Like a near grip flip right there.
Almost. Watch this with Donnie Garrett. You could break the steering wheel turning the car to the right this quickly.
Got the wall a little bit, but
Better than being completely out.
oh yeah.
Ultimate Garage Floors number 77. That was Josh Metallic just ahead of him as well. Great job by those two to avoid the incident. Fifth yellow flag of the night. More drivers out of the race. Robert Breedlove and Jeffrey Elliott, the latest drivers to head behind the wall. It's going to leave us with 33 drivers running. Looks like Ulysses Sandoval. We'll wait for scoring to update, but it looks like he got his tow completed before the leaders came around to lap him. So I believe he is going to still be on the lead lap. But after the hit we saw him take, you got to think he's going to fall into the category of drivers that are off the pace. And Michael, you mentioned about dependent on how many pacing laps we have here, driver situation on fuel. I think they're still in danger of not making it the rest of the way. I just saw the entirety of the top 5 throw in the clutch there going into turn 1.
Well, you might see some last ditch coming on the top off, and then, saving 1 lap of fuel is better than saving 3 laps of fuel.
Good point. It's a very good point. I think.
So if we don't get any more wrecks on this, we could have a Brian Schilling moment.
We very well could.
How many lapped out cars do we have?
None. We've yet to actually, this entire race, we've yet to invoke the free pass. Nobody has fallen off the lead lap. We had a couple of drivers in the first 10 laps of the race that were in danger, if we continue to trend green, of going off the lead lap, but the cautions that we've had have saved them, and they've been able to remain on the tail end of the lead lap.
Well, we may see some cars duck off now if this is going to be the last pace lap, or the second to last pace lap.
A couple of drivers I saw actually duck off midway point of the race at the 1 to green. included the one of Jeremy Jeffries, and he's up here in 7th. Let's see if he ducks onto pit road here or anybody else. We should be coming to the 1 to green this time. Here comes Brian Rawson from the lead. He's coming in. No last minuters up here. Dante's coming in. Dennis McCarthy, Mark Paglia, Keith Bynum.
Couple of the damaged cars.
Yep.
Imagine being a damaged car and winning the race because everybody else in front of you runs out of gas.
It could happen. You never know.
There's not many cars out there that aren't damaged in some form.
Kelly Causey's going to re-inherit the lead, and I do believe with leading that lap right there, his 28th of the night, I believe that that's going to lock him up the bonus point for most laps led. Closest driver that could battle him for that would be Brian Schilling, but he would have to lead every lap for the rest of the race. Kelly Causey holding on to that final 12th playoff position, if you will. 12th in the standings, dropped from 9th to 12th after last week. And looking to move back up in the point standings. Causey's pointed his way into the playoffs. He's won his way into the playoffs in the past. And here tonight, he'd love to add another checkered flag to his resume and lock himself up a spot in the Season 64 postseason.
As strong as that car has been, he could very well, race his way in tonight.
So they'll line up this way for the restart, which will be with 21 laps to go.
Which is right on the edge.
Yeah, right on the furthest number we're usually given that a driver can make it if they save just a little bit of fuel on a green flag run. Causey the leader, Schilling second. Roberts will be third with Nofsker in fourth, looking for his 3rd win on the season, Tim Nofsker. Let's not count him out, the defending champ. Dunlap, Jeremy Jeffries in row 3, Chuck McClure and John Godfrey in row 4, and Terry Bombard, Josh Metallic there in row 5. Terry Bombard's done a good job of bouncing back. He was caught up in that first incident. Kind of was worried how much damage he sustained. Apparently he's still up to speed and got a shot at this thing as well. You talked about a fuel strategy potential race here, Michael. I was reminded by our buddy JT Mayhew a couple of broadcasts ago about the race that he and Terry Bombard almost were able to pull off the heist of the season and make it on fuel. Terry ran out in the final lap in turn 1. JT ran out in the final lap on the back straightaway.
Yep, what could have been. Green flag back out.
Schilling timed that restart well, but he's a long ways away from Nofsker. The draft's going to be on the bottom. Causey pulls up to that middle line. Now, the good news for Kelly Causey is he's got a strong race car. He's led the most laps. The bad news is if we're close on fuel, him being out in front, he definitely can't make it the rest of the way. No way you can save fuel being the race leader.
Guess we're just going to have to find out.
Couple of drivers just outside the top 10 there. Ron Hagelin working his way back up to the front. Bobby Farrell, former champion, and Richard Martin. Craig Hagley's in the conversation again. Rodney Sullivan's working his way back up to the front after starting on the outside of the front row earlier on this evening. These are all drivers mid-pack where they can save a little bit of fuel, throw in the clutch on entry, half throttle it on the straightaways. Might be able to make it the rest of the way if indeed it comes down to the flagman having nothing left to do tonight except wave the white. Ken Roberts trying to lead that inside line. They've got good numbers down there, but they just don't have the momentum on the straightaways. Now you start to see drivers vacating that inside line. Chuck McClure tucks up behind Bobby Farrell. Roberts in front of the 92. Dunlap Pratt now left down there. As I think, were we having a move made there, or did the 088 of Novsker just swing a little wide? Not sure.
Might have just a little wide. Keeping an eye out for it, though. You know it's going to happen, but the question is, you know, we talk about the final run to the checkered flag there. I think it was going to be lap 62, maybe 63 if we have a lap down car somewhere around there. It's going to be our point of no return.
Because I believe a couple of weeks ago.
You believe in Joe Hendry?
No, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We had nobody off the lead lap, and we got to 62, and I said I think we're going to get back green, and they didn't. So at this point in time, with everybody on the lead lap, I think it would be 62 onward where the next flag would end the race. An interesting thing I'm looking at here, too, is these drivers, I know obviously they're all trying to save fuel, all right in line, do what the leader is doing, but if you are short on fuel, I mean, a lot of drivers usually in the middle of a race when we get prepared for green flag pit stops, they all migrate down there to the yellow line to make sure they have that easier access to pit road. With running this middle line right now, if drivers are short, we're probably going to see, nearing 5 laps to go, a lot of drivers migrate down to that inside line just in case they run out or have to make that last-minute dive onto the pit lane.
What about you, Kyle? What do you think?
Do what? I'm sorry.
I said, what about you, Kyle? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, this is the way this race has gone. It's kind of hard to believe that this thing would go green for the rest of the way, but you never know. I find it interesting that that inside line is basically non-existent. It looks like they're single file all the way through throughout the entire pack right now.
Oh, that's how you know they're in fuel saving mode.
Absolutely.
And this is what you'll see from that.
And you look back here at some of these drivers at the tail end of the pack.
Oh, there we go. Someone thinking about making a move.
If they can't make it, you know there's going to be some drivers back here that are going to gamble. If they run out of fuel, they run out of fuel. But you see that, see the 8 move up the racetrack there. With it being single file, everybody running the same lane, means the checkup is pretty massive right now. To your point, Kyle, it may mean that we're not necessarily done with cautions here. We've seen yellow flags come out for single file racing just as much as we have for double wide and 3 wide racing at super speedways.
Absolutely. It could take somebody, trying to clutch at the worst possible time. Somebody gets into the back of them, and it's on from there.
And if we do end up having a yellow between now and the end of the race, then that just throws fuel strategy completely out the window. They'd have about 3 laps or so under pacing where they'd be able to save the 1 or 2 laps that they're short. John Godfrey in the 7-Eleven, right now holding down the 5th position. And so far, you're okay, Michael. You haven't commentator cursed Josh Metallic. I mean, he's...
Oh, now you have.
Well, no.
By mentioning his name.
No, I can't taint the good luck that you gave him.
We'll see about that.
Now, the one person who doesn't want this thing to go green the rest of the way, I can't imagine, would be the race leader. As you mentioned, Seth, Causey being out in front really has no way of saving any fuel.
Question is, how soon do we see him dive onto pit road if indeed he can't make it? We know that 10 laps will get you 1 can of fuel, 5 laps half a can. Splash will get you about 1 to 2 laps. I would have to assume at this point in time he'd need a splash. I don't know if the run goes long enough if he would absolutely need to have a half can, so we could see him on pit road potentially as soon as lap 63, 64. A couple of other drivers that don't want this thing to run green to the finish either are some of the drivers that have been damaged during the course of this race and are obviously off the pace. Grant Wesley, former winner on the season, former champion. Right now, last car running in 33rd. Bernie Mobbs has had a rough night. He's right now in the 32nd spot. And last week's winner, Bob Dixon, right now in the 31st spot. Doug Hulick in the 23. I think he may have just thrown in the clutch for a long period of time right there through the entrance of turn 3 through turn 4. He might be an ultra save right now. Let's watch him again as he makes his way down here to turn 1. He's only carrying 176, 177 miles per hour at top speed. And right there, he just threw in the clutch. Might be one of those drivers trying to make something happen out of what's looking like what's going to be a pretty mediocre points night.
Well said. Talladega, where screwdrivers can always go one way or the other. There's never really any, set outcome that you can have. I mean, other than Grant Wesley, but
and they just put Wesley down.
If you don't have the the track position and stuff happens out of your control, there's not really much you can do.
Nope. Bynum and McCarthy, they are latched on to the tail end of this lead lap right now. Look at the gaps here. I don't think these gaps are by accident. Roston with a gap to Sandoval, Sandoval with a gap to Sullins. They're all coasting into the corner, allowing a bit of a gap through the center of the corner, throttling back up off and trying to get a nice toe down the front or the back straightaway. They're not going to catch the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. He's coming to pit road. Either he's making his final pit stop of the night or he might be taking it to the garage area. Bernie Mobbs, another driver who's really struggled here this season. 29th in points coming into this race. And we've had this conversation with drivers in our post-race wind-downs of them saying season after season the competition just gets stronger. The list of drivers that can win every week gets larger. And with that being said, you end up having a lot of drivers that do really well during the course of a season. On the flip side, unfortunately, somebody has to have a bad season, and a lot of big names fall into that category. I mean, you look here at the point standings, 4 races in, you've got names down there like Brian Rawson, who was a multi-time winner a couple of seasons ago, former champion in Bob Seminara, former champion in Richard Martin, John Godfrey, who's a multi-time winner in the series, all outside of the top 20 in the point standings. It's a nervous time right now for the field, all wondering who can make it, who cannot. A lot of communication going to be going on here for the drivers that can't make it to make sure they come to pit road with a buddy or two. If you come to pit road by yourself, leave by yourself, you're not going to find yourself in a good spot track position-wise if indeed everybody cannot reach the conclusion. Believe they're about to catch both Doug Hulick and Bob Dixon. First time we've had lap cars here this evening. Mobbs and Wesley already put a lap down. A couple other drivers just ahead. In danger of falling off the lead lap as well. Oh! I think we just had a checkup right there and they saved it.
Like you said, this is the product of single file racing. The checkup is going to be intense.
Ken Roberts, I think, might have gotten a bad bump from Bobby Farrell. I saw his car dart down to the inside.
I think it was Dixon came to pit road, I believe.
Bob Dixon, 143, you'd be correct. Mobb's going to go another lap down, so it looks like he actually did make his final pit stop of the night. But that's going to drop him a second lap down to the leaders.
This has got to be the most frustrating part here for a racer at this part when it's all about fuel mileage. You want to race, you can pull out, try to make a move, you got a fast car, but you got to think about fuel first and foremost.
Chuck McClure making a move there, and the tough thing too, to your point, Kyle, is drivers are going to play their cards close to the chest. They're not going to tell you if they're short on fuel or if they can make it, and so you don't necessarily know, am I that lead car that's safe to make it the rest of the way? Am I second? Am I third? Who do I need to pass to make sure that I'm that first car across the start-finish line, even if it's on fumes?
Just ask Brian Schilling. All he needed was his engine to sniff the gas. That's what was left.
That's it. Oh, we're moving down to the inside. Telltale sign that these drivers are all potentially preparing to head to pit road.
Ooh, if that's the case, this is going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting.
Saw a lot of penalties last week during green flag pit stops. It took a lot of drivers out of contention. If the final pit stop of this race is going to be under green, boy, there's going to be a lot of pressure on these.
This is the proverbial money stop, to your point, at least for the drivers that cannot make it. But still, the question remains, is there someone that can make it? Also bear in mind, when these drivers come to pit road, if there's an incident down off the racing surface at pit road entry, it won't bring out a caution. We're past the point of no return. Next flag's going to end the race. Somebody could get lucky, stay out, have something happen out on the racetrack.
And then just turn their car off.
Yeah, just turn their car off. Pull a Grant Wesley from a few seasons ago and just clutch the rest of the pacing to pick up the win. Radio's lighting up. Oh! Jeremy Jeffries blew up. We're still green. He threw in the clutch. If he can get to pit road, we're going to stay under the green flag. Now the caution waves.
He got off the track, though, so I wonder if that's just... It's race back.
Caution's out. They did race back. And Causey, does he have the fuel to make it now, though? Remember, he led the entirety of that green flag run. Does he have enough fuel to save here under the final 3 laps of caution? Oh, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see this fuel strategy race play out. Jeremy Jeffries with an engine failure from the fourth position. Did everything he was supposed to do there. Pulled it off the racetrack, threw in the clutch. Unfortunately, though, race officials did throw the yellow. Great job having nobody else run over him, too, because that was a tough spot of the racetrack, especially where I saw radios lighting up, and it was looking like we were going to have drivers diving onto pit road. Here's a look at what happened to Jeremy.
Just that far enough of a gap between that he was able to blow up and move out of the way.
Let's take a look here. Just a random blow up. Pulls it to the inside. Oh, actually, I don't think he threw in the clutch. He was still in the throttle, so that's why the caution did come out. He didn't throw in the clutch. He was in the process of trying to save the race car from spinning out, and that's why the yellow flag waved for debris. Kind of hard to remember to throw in the clutch when you're trying not to bin the race car up into traffic. Here's a look again. And the way that we know that he didn't throw in the clutch is you can still see the black smoke coming out from underneath his race car right here. If he was throwing in the clutch, then you wouldn't actually see the smoke coming out from behind his machine. And right about there, yep, you see the flagman at the entrance of pit road displaying the red flag, and that's what ends this thing under yellow. So now we'll bring it back to live, and we'll see if Kelly Causey has enough fuel in the tank to be able to make it back around for another 2.5 circuits. I mean...
This is circa Dale Jr. 2003 Busch Series.
This is circa Grant Wesley from, I don't even remember what season it was. I want to say maybe as far back as season 58, 57, something like that. Well, if Causey pulls this off, he will have gone coast to coast, pole to win. And if he does complete these final 2.5 laps, he will have led a race-high 50 laps here tonight. Talk about domination.
He had one strategy, stay up front, and We'll see if he's going to pull it off to perfection here.
Brian Schilling looking to keep his top 5 streak intact. Tim Nofsker. Believe he and Schilling will be really... Oh, Causey! He can't make it. Or, well... No, he's coming in.
Wow.
Oh, man. I'll be honest.
He stayed out.
I'll be honest. Even
he didn't. That was
even if I was short on fuel, I'd have stayed out and run out under pacing.
Oh, yeah. Same.
Risk it. Why not? So Schilling now inherits the lead, and I think it's safe to say if Causey was that short on fuel, Schilling should be able to make it the rest of the way. Still got to make 2 more laps, though, around this 2 point.
Oh, so that means Metallic could possibly finish 3rd.
Yes. Chuck McClure way down there on the apron. I thought he might be coming to pit road, but...
Get on the apron, guys. Come on.
We talked about the huge disadvantage that Causey was in by leading that entire green flag run out there, not able to save fuel, and unfortunately, it's cost him the race.
Metallic was down the apron through 3 and 4. McClure down the apron here through 1 and 2. I don't know, maybe these guys can't make it.
You can tell he's clutching under caution here, the 4 car is.
Looking back to see if there's anybody that's not clutching. Looks like the 711, the 92, the 74, I didn't really see them clutching all that much. So they must be confident that they've saved enough here to make it the rest of the way. This race is going to end under yellow. Lights will not go out this next time by. Now Schilling migrates his way down onto the apron. This is probably about the closest since the Grant Wesley win on fuel strategy several seasons ago that we've been to drivers potentially running out of fuel, a number of them up at the front under the final laps. We've already seen Causey couldn't make it. Schilling's going to stay out. Nofsker as well. Metallic. This is going to be really close, it appears.
Yep, we're going to have to find out.
McClure must feel that he's in danger of running out of fuel, being down there.
Or he's just doing it just to show, like what real cars would do.
Yeah, just take the shorter way around. Let's see if Schilling throws in the clutch at all here during this lap, or does he feel he saved enough to be able to be under power for this final lap? Nope, clutched right there. Saw Schilling at this venue 1 season ago. Just barely be able to coast across the start-finish line to pick up the win in the season opener at Talladega Superspeedway. He has started out the season with 4 straight finishes inside of the top 5, the only driver so far this season to achieve that feat. And he looks to put the cherry on top here with 5 straight top 5s, but a victory to boot. And right now, according to what I'm seeing, Brian Schilling would take over the points lead as well from Grant Wesley by 5 points over Tim Nofsker heading into the next race in 2 weeks' time at BSR. That's if he can make it through 3 and 4. And the long tri-oval. The start-finish line is down between the center of the tri-oval and turn 1. It's not like Daytona. You got an extra few hundred feet you got to traverse.
Imagine if Schilling runs out. Look who's right behind him.
Tim Nofsker, who would love to pick up a 3rd win on the season, coming in as the defending champ. Out of 4. On to the front straight. Schilling. Looks like he may have enough to make it. Nofsker looks good. Metallic looks good. They're in line to be our podium finishers here tonight.
TV2. TV2.
Fine. And here they come. Through the tri-oval, Brian Schilling on fumes once again will pick up a victory here at Talladega, this time in Season 64, to lock himself into the playoffs. The former champ. And I think he's out of fuel now. Well, maybe not. Is he going to have enough fuel to be able to do a burnout?
A little bit, yeah.
He's got to make sure that the race standings are official. You don't want to get yourself disqualified. I think he didn't want to make the other circuit around the racetrack. He decided, you know, I'm going to do my burnouts right here, right now, while I've got the fuel.
Right, he's like, yep, time to do it right now.
First victory of the season for Brian Schilling. Fourth different winner here in Season 64. And a new points leader heading now into that push towards the playoff segment of the season. He'll get to enjoy the off week next week and look to defend the overall points lead for the final 4 races of this regular season. Nofsker will get second. Metallic will bring it home in third. And we'll show you now the finishing results from this one. Ken Roberts will be fourth. Fifth for Chuck McClure. John Godfrey brings it home sixth. Bobby Farrell seventh. Dunlap Pratt up in the top 10 pretty much all night long. Gets eighth. Richard Martin ninth. And Craig Hagley going to complete the top 10. Greg Palmer in 11th. Mark Paglia in the 12th position. Graham McDonald 13th. Donnie Garrett 14th. And Bob Seminara 15th. You kind of look down from 10th on down. All these drivers were caught up in incidents in some way, shape, or form. Were able to salvage some pretty good runs. Despite that, Sullins in 16th. Sandoval was upside down. Had to call a tow, but stayed on the tail end of the lead lap and finishes 17th. Brian Rawson, Cy Jones, Dante Ricky, the rest of the top 20. Terry Bombard in 21st, Glenn Harris 22nd. Heartbreak of the race has to go to the dominant car of the night. 47 laps led from the pole position. Didn't have the fuel to get to the conclusion. Kelly Causey, 23rd place, is not going to be indicative of how good a car he had tonight. Ron Hagelin, Keith Bynum, the rest of the top 25, and then Mangialardi and McCarthy were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. 5 drivers, 1 lap down, including former winners on the season, Bob Dixon and Grant Wesley. Jeremy Jeffries had the engine expire that brought out the last yellow flag. He DNFs along with Robert Breedlove, Jeffrey Elliott, Nate Balser, Joe DeSpirito, Jason Scheck, Pat McCarskey, Denny Carroll, and Jessica Shelton. Needless to say, with a lot of the names up near the top and a lot of the names down near the bottom, going to be another shakeup in the point standings as we set our sights on Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway in 2 weeks' time. Kyle, you got a little bit of everything last week. This week you get the fuel strategy side of Super Speedway Racing.
Yeah, get a bunch of caution flags and it still comes down to fuel mileage.
You get some blowovers, you get some flips.
And drama in the closing laps, even though we were under caution.
Absolutely. All the aspects of Super Speedway Racing. As now we head into our FRN post-race wind down, and let's see if we can talk with our podium finishers here tonight. Let's kick things off with the driver that Michael amazingly did not jinx when he wished him luck at the beginning of the night. Let's see if we can dial up Josh Metallic.
User was moved to your channel.
Hey Josh, it's Michael, Kyle, and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
I do.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Michael's taking credit for wishing you luck here tonight.
Yeah, that was, it went pretty smooth. Avoided all the wrecks somehow. I was so far back at the start that I missed the warp wreck and just everything went right. Didn't get caught up in anything. Well, I shouldn't say everything went right. I finished third and I still lost my bracket. I don't know how that happened, but overall it was good.
I was curious on the big warp wreck at the start. I was almost thinking it was going to be a restart, but then I was like, wait, did they do that?
No, if we have an issue before the green, we will. Once it's green, it's gone. So it really stunk. A lot of guys got their nights ruined right away. You hate seeing that. But yeah, I don't know. It was one of those fluke things, I think.
Now, Josh, you talk about here, a lot of the things going right. You had enough fuel under caution to make it the rest of the way. Where were you at if this thing had actually gone green to the finish? Because we saw not only the leader, but just about the entire top 10 all migrate down to the inside line, indicative of what we're used to seeing when you guys are preparing to make a green flag pit stop. Was that just in reaction to what was going up ahead of you? Were you good to go, or were you going to have to make a last-minute dive in the closing stages?
Everybody was going to have to pit, and anyone that says they were not is lying. I can tell you that. And that's why it kind of got so, single file, boring parade going on. I felt bad for you guys, but you had a bunch of cars that were damaged, just holding on to the pack as best they could, and the rest of us are trying to save. I was too short. I did not pit with 1 to go. The guys that did were maybe 1.5 short. Maybe they saved a half a can. We weren't clutching. We were going full bore, 90%, I guess. So they couldn't clutch back there very much. So we were pretty sure no one was going to make it. But I didn't know when to pit. I'm like, do I pit with 5 to go? Because I don't want to pit with 30 guys and get caught up in a wreck and your night's ruined. Or do you wait? Do you pit early? Do you pit late? So we were kind of thinking, where do you go? Where do you go? And then right in front of me, Jeremy blows up, and we about crash there. He gets by, and we think we're good. Then the yellow came out, and there's no chance to race back. It was in the tri-oval, I think. So weird night, a lot of wrecks, but we'll make up for it in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, we got that off week coming up. I want to talk to you about your positioning in points because, you just quickly eyeball it. Only 1 top 10 on the season coming into tonight. People might think you're further down in points. You were 14th in the standings coming into this one. So, the 10th through 15th finishing positions, that consistency can still keep you up there in the conversation. And this podium finish should propel you now up into the top 12. In that kind of a situation with the scenario that we had building up here in the closing stages, just how important was it in your mind to just execute the pit stop, maintain as good track position as you could in the finishing results?
Yeah, 100%. I got wrecked 2 weeks ago, finished 37th, and that's like a 40-point loss. I mean, that's just huge. So I fell pretty far in the points, had a decent run last week, I think top 12 or something. And then this year, this will help a lot. So wanted to win, wanted to beat Tim in the brackets, but being outside the top 12, you just want to make sure you had a good finish, get yourself back up in there, and then you can get a little more racing aggressive again.
Well, great run for you here tonight. As I said, it should mathematically put you now up into the top 12, into a playoff position. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time, we'll see you get this 39 in victory lane, lock yourself in through a win. But before we let you go here, Josh, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, first shout-outs to Kelly. I feel real bad. He dominated tonight. I don't know how. It seemed like every time I checked my F2, he was up there. And guys were congratulating him under caution. And then he just goes off and pits, and I was like, oh, he led that whole green flag stint. And I was too short to begin with, so I knew he had to be more. So felt bad for him. Good job, Brian Schilling, on the win. Tim beat me in the brackets, and Rodney, our new admin on Thursdays. Still thinking of Wiley. It's been about a season now, but I still think of him every Thursday night. And Bones and Prime, keeping the doors open here. They do so much stuff behind the scenes people don't know. And all the drivers. I mean, we're still crazy having knockout qualifying. Hate sending people home, but love having full fields. So, but yeah, thanks again. It was fun.
Well, he had an adventurous night, had to weave his way through some wrecks, able to have enough fuel to get third place, and he passed a lot of cars doing it. Started out back in 38th position. Josh Metallic, third place here tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations on the great run, the great points night, and hopefully you can keep this consistency going down the home stretch here of the regular season.
Sounds good. Thank you.
User was
he mentioned the fact that he finished runner-up to the driver he was battling in the bracket challenge. He was facing off against Tim Nofsker, and Nofsker gets him by 1 position here tonight to move on to the next round of the winner's side. Metallic will move now to the loser's side. Let's dial up the defending champion, 2-time winner on the season, driver the 088, Tim Nofsker.
User was moved to your
Hey
channel.
Tim, it's Michael, Kyle, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do.
Man, it was getting very interesting. Pretty nail-biting finish there. Wondering who was going to be able to make it on fuel. We didn't know if we were going to see the scenario finish out under green or under caution. We heard there from Josh that pretty much everybody up inside of the top 10, pretty much the entire field, were unlikely going to make it the rest of the way if we trended green. How close was it there under those final couple of laps? Because you had not your usual 1 or 2 laps under caution to finish the thing out. You had to go about 3 laps. Where were you at as far as fuel when you crossed the start-finish line? How nerve-wracking was it on maybe running out of fuel under pacing?
I was real good. During that last run, I was doing a lot of half throttling and stuff, trying to shorten up my last pit stop. I couldn't have made it. I was a solid probably 1 3/4 to 2 laps short. But I was able to save some in that last run. I felt terrible for Kelly because he dominated this race, and I knew he was going to have a problem leading that whole stint. So,
Hey, your race got off to a rather adventurous start, let's say. That checkup at the drop of the green, you got shuffled out of line there, crossing the start-finish line, and were able to merge back up in turn 1. Actually, were able to avoid that big wreck that occurred. I mean, a lot of drivers here tonight had to mount some comebacks. You had to, for the most part, a relatively clean race outside of that, stayed up in the top 10 all night long, but how difficult was it up there with the fact that we end up having a lot of varying strategies with these cautions, some drivers that were a little bit maybe off the pace, trying to keep track position on some fuel strategy calls, just kind of weighing all that in the balance on top of having to worry about fuel on that final run to the checkers?
well, you always hope that your strategy is the right one. When it gets to races like this where guys are trying to improve their track position by staying out, and you know, the darndest thing about these races is you do that one time and get five laps out of sequence with the rest of the field, and that's about the time it goes green from there on out, and then you end up losing the draft. And it's better to be safe than sorry in those situations where you want to try to stay on the same playing field with the rest of the group, you know.
In the hunt still for that regular season championship as well. You lose a couple of points to Brian, but only 8 points back here. Still got 4 regular season races to let go with, and we've documented the fact you're the only multi-time winner on the season, so you're already locked into the playoffs. So, you know, the good consistent run here tonight, how much does that continue to build the confidence that you can maybe garner those 15 bonus points at the end of the regular season as well, be that #1 seed when the playoff grid is put together?
That'd be great, but as you can see, the guys around me, they're all top notch. So it's going to be battle. Felt bad that Grant, you know, had his misfortune. I guess I went through that last week more of my issue. I had the flu last Thursday. I literally raced with a blanket over my head, and it would have made a pretty entertaining photo, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, the regular season championship is, you know, I just got to keep those solid runs coming, and you know, like I said, even though I felt bad that Grant had misfortune, I mean, you know, someone's misfortune is someone else's gain in this series. So, you know, consistency is where it's going to be at.
Yeah, we talk a lot of times with drivers, and they put consistency sometimes even as a priority over getting to victory lane. Keep those points rather than lose them, especially with the full fields that we've seen here at the beginning of the season. But Tim, another great run for you. Solid podium finish. You've had some really good stats here to kick off the first half of this regular season. We hope that it continues for you here as you look to defend your championship from season 63. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
As always, thank you guys for the job that you do. I've got to thank Josh and Rodney for helping with the admin duties. It's Rodney has hopped right in seamlessly, so he's a great addition to the group. Thanks to the owners, Brian, Bones, Jack, all those guys that help us keep the lights on. And other than that, oh yeah, and I want to congratulate Brian Schilling on his win. He ran a really smart, great race tonight, and I was glad to see that he could leg it out there at the end to have enough gas. So anyway, thanks guys, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. That's Tim Nofsker, runner-up finish here tonight, his 4th top 5 on the season, and very much still in the conversation for that regular season championship heading into the second half of this regular season. Congratulations on the great run here tonight, having that fuel to get to the end. Enjoy your off week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks, Tim.
All right, thanks guys.
And let's go down to victory lane. 4th different winner on the season is driver number 4. Let's dial up Brian Schilling.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Brian, Michael, Kyle, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah.
Well, 1 season ago, this venue, first race of the season, we saw you coast across the start-finish line in a nail-biter fuel strategy race. Fast forward to tonight, it was under caution, but it still came down to the wire as far as did you have enough fuel to get to the conclusion. I mean, the caution comes out, you got the 00 ahead of you. Did you think you had him based on the fact he had led that entire final green flag run and you knew that you were in a good position to maybe be able to get this victory on fuel strategy?
I knew he was going to have less fuel than me. I wasn't 100% how much less he had. So, I was surprised to see him pit as early as he did under yellow. But it just came to the strategy. As you say, the point of no return. It's like I got to at least stretch the fuel out to there and see what happens.
A lot of impressive feats accomplished here just tonight. Not only do you pick up the victory to lock yourself into the playoffs, you now are the overall points leader as well. But if you hadn't won this race, even if you finished second, a statistic that jumps out to me, and we talked about this a lot last season as well, you've taken on a model of consistency in this series, which is such a tough thing to do in super speedway racing. You were the only driver coming in tonight that had finished in the top 5 in the previous 4 races, and now you add another top 5 here in race number 5. How do you manage to position yourself to be able to have these consistent finishes? Because we'll see drivers, they'll get a spurt of maybe 2 or 3 really good runs, and then they hit a rock wall and they'll finish outside of the top 20, look to bounce back the next week. You've not had to deal with that so far here this season. You've been consistently able to put yourself in the right place at the right time, if not to take the checkered flag, to have a solid points day.
Yeah, luck, always there. You got to have good things happen to you, not get caught up in things. Good guys to work with, and just good strategy calls. You put all 3 of those together, everything works out. If it's not top 5, it's top 10. I mean, these guys are just top notch. Even if I didn't win this race, I would have been ecstatic running second. It's so tough to win here, and it's just having a good run is just awesome.
So I do have to ask, going back to that race I alluded to 1 season ago, was there any point during that run that you possibly considered trying to stretch it to the end, or was that just not any type of possibility?
No possibility whatsoever. I was about 2.5 laps short. So, yeah, I was going to have to pit within probably a lap after the yellow came out.
Well, you pick up the win, your first of the season here. You've got the points lead heading into the next race in 2 weeks. Get a little bit of an off week, a little bit of a break here before you look to defend the overall points lead for the final 4 races of this regular season. Job well done here tonight. Ticked a lot of boxes here and keep that top 5 streak going. Be interesting to see if he can keep that going for the entirety of the regular season, because if that happens, I'm going to be looking back through the record books and seeing if anybody's ever done that during the course of a regular season. But Brian, we'll let you get back to your celebrating here in a moment. Before we do, though, floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
First and foremost, gutted to see what happened, Kelly, there at the end. You ran a great race. Just, always great to work with you, run with you. Thank you to the admins, Josh, Tim, and Rodney, the sponsors, for putting this out there. Donnie Garrett, Ultimate Garage Floors, the Dixon brothers, congratulations on your win last week, Bob. Rodney Sullins Paints. Thank you to Tim Nosker, Chuck McClure, and Mark Paglia. They're always, I would not be finishing the way I would without their help every week. Thank you to the ownership. Thank you to you guys. Always, it's gonna be fun to come back and watch this. Little shout out to Dunn LaPrade too at the beginning of the race. Really good drafting with him. That's what he helped me get right up to the front there. So, otherwise, yeah. Thank you everyone for coming out every week. It's always a good time.
Well, Brian Schilling, he's your winner here tonight. Fourth different driver to go to Victory Lane, and your new points leader heading into this second half of the regular season. Congratulations on the victory. Enjoy your off week. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Thank
you. And also one other thing real quick. This one's for Wiley Cody and Robbie Nices. Two guys I've known for a long time. So like I said, they're thinking about them.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the win there, Brian. Enjoy your little bit of an off week here, and best of luck the remainder of this regular season.
Thank you.
User was moved.
Brian Schilling with the victory here tonight. And Kyle Michael, we were talking before we came on the air, and I said, we've had some of the usual suspects go to Victory Lane in Nofsker and Wesley. It was great to see the Cinderella story with Bob Dixon, but as we start getting into the second half, into the mid-portion, latter portion of the regular season, there were names that you knew were probably going to jump up there, if not in Victory Lane, up in the top 3, top 5, put their names out there for a playoff spot. Brian Schilling was one of those names on that list, and granted, he had to take advantage of the hardship of Kelly Causey, but again, right positioning at the right time.
Yep, just got to be there, and you never know what's going to happen. We knew it was going to be a fuel mileage race from that last restart, and, well, it definitely turned out to be one.
Yeah, just an impressive step. You were talking about with him just having a top 5 in every single race so far this season. That like you mentioned, that is extremely difficult to do when it comes to super speedway racing. So, and you race like that, you're going to put yourself in a position to win, and it worked out for him. And it worked out for him tonight.
We obviously saw 6 cautions here tonight. Quite a number of laps of this race run under the yellow flag. With it being the 5th race, as I mentioned before, we ended up gridding up. It's pretty much the midway portion of the season here, of the regular season. Drivers now are realizing where they are in terms of either having to preserve a playoff spot or get themselves in playoff spot conversation. I've asked about potential sense of desperation. Did we see that here tonight with maybe a little bit more aggression out of some of those maybe bubble drivers that are outside of the top 20, realizing that they're running out of time? They got to start making moves, start getting those finishes necessary, because they don't want to put themselves in a must-win situation in about 3-4 weeks' time.
I think we very well could have. It's easy to see that when you get closer and closer to the cutoff race before the playoffs, and drivers get desperate, definitely, and I think we may have saw that tonight a little bit.
Be interesting to see if we see that in 2 weeks' time. Again, next Thursday night is the NASCAR Duel, so RTG will be off. We will also, as far as I'm aware, not have a Wednesday night broadcast for the Esports Oval League. There may be a makeshift broadcast that'll be put together, but that is tentative as of right now. Currently, last I heard, we will not have another broadcast here on FRN until the 19th of February, when we will have the Grind Cup Series, their event from the Auto Club Speedway, and then the following night, on the 20th, we'll be back here with the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series drivers from Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. So we'll be taking a bit of an off week ourselves here at the Flatout Racing Network.
Faster?
Probably not. But I'm not going to challenge myself to find out. The point standings are indeed in. Brian Schilling will have an 8-point lead over Tim Nofsker. Grant Wesley drops back to third, 28 points back. And right now, we would have 13 drivers that would be in the playoffs. Dixon dropped out of the top 12, so top 12 in points. And Dixon, with his win, would be in playoff positions. We probably are going to see a lot more drivers as well be added on to the additional 12 points-paying playoff drivers as we get closer towards the end of this regular season. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out and who our drivers will be that will battle for the championship ultimately at the close of season 64. But Michael, Kyle, appreciate you joining me up here in the booth again here tonight. We got to see a little bit different of what we saw last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, getting to see all the different facets of super speedway racing, which ultimately all seem to boil down to just one thing: right place, right time, and have a little bit of luck.
And a little bit of fuel.
That's two. That too.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you all for tuning into our coverage here this evening. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. Hope you all enjoy your off week as well. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time here to continue on the series of the iRacing and Enter 2003 series here on FRN. For myself, for Kyle Matthews, and for Michael Norman, enjoy the rest of your night. We'll see you on the 19th of February for continuing coverage here on FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.